call it the celebration of the lizard.
Ladies and gentlemen, pitchforks and flaming torches has resumed for a little while. A little bit of music to start as I get into the groove. I want to tell you a little story. Actually, last time I went to Europe, I was in Paris, part of a tour group. We had a tour guide. We had a tour guide hired for the purpose, and the tour guide asked us very politely where we wanted to go during the day, if there was anywhere special that he could put it into the tour group or get it into the trip. So the last thing in the day's tour that he let us go off and start with, probably a regular routine, might have been asked this question several times. We asked him, where is Père Lachaise Cemetery? Reason: members among the tour group, me included, understood that the last earthly remaining burial place, the burial place of Jim Morrison, is in Père Lachaise Cemetery in France, in Paris. And so, the last thing he did was drop us off onto the subway. We got off at the right stop, and started following graffiti. From the minute you step off the metro to the time that you find the grave, you follow the graffiti, you will find Jim. Haha.
She came to town and then she drove away. Sunlight in her hair. When she come down the street with the river sadness, she come down the street just up to my thighs.
That hole with the young. Gonna leave the Suburban where it is till I get back here.
Indians gathered on Don's highway bleeding. Ghost crowned that young child's fragile eggshell mind. There's blood in the streets in the town of New Haven. Blood stained the boots and the palm trees of Venice. Blood in my love in the terrible summer.
Oh.
Blood and red sun of
Must be something I drank. Whoa. This makes people nervous for some reason. Sorry. I don't mean... It's not funny, but I gotta say. Bam. Yeah. Gonna fast forward while you're not listening. Where's this one? Haha, live, Fernando. I warned the crowd. Y'all know this song, but you don't know the lyric.
I'm giving you fair warning now.
Fair use. It's called satire. I don't want to put up a card. I'm saying the truth. This is satire as far as I'm concerned. Dude.
Cause it's called Puff Puff Pass Fernando.
Damn right.
Many years it's been since I saw you with
A reefer in your hand.
Did you find your bomb, Fernando?
Oh, we get the room.
Handy little glass when you got outside of Disneyland. And I can see it in your eyes, that glassy stare that you get when you take a rip upon it.
The ship.
Cause it was years ago, Fernando, when we met in Tijuana at a swag resort hotel. Baby, it was Acapulco. You worked the bar, Fernando.
That's true, man.
You
It was
were bloody
fucking...
well connected to the Zetas, I heard tell. And it was tattooed up and down your arms, a wide variety of substances you'd sell.
No guitar, but I got a good banjo
Cause it
now.
was something in the E, I think, but not the drink, Fernando. With a great big bag of coca leaves.
Whoa,
For
whoa.
you and me, Fernando.
Stretch out the timeline and see.
And though we never thought that we would
Moment of
run
impact and the time at the...
out of grass. I got a dealer who delivers, man, with a great big van, Fernando.
The greatest moment of solo ever I've done. That's true. I did turn it on, didn't I? Yeah. Good. Good.
Put me in recovery position if I faint.
Maybe.
Are you feeling good, Fernando?
Go for it, Fernando.
Cause I feel just a little queasy from the smorgasbord we ate. And if you think that
I think it might have been smorgasbord too, like for sure.
I'm here to tell you it's too
So the
late.
bus isn't here when GK gets here. Bus long gone.
Cause we were younger than Fernando.
Not there?
Hours,
No.
many minutes seemed to last eternity. In the firelight, Fernando.
I gotta laugh at it. We were in the middle of the desert, man. We were in the desert for like weeks. We ran out of food to eat.
Got into the nitrous first. My guts done burst, Fernando.
Might as well get a few ads out here.
Drinking mezcal from the bottle straight. The worm can wait, Fernando. And though we never thought that we could run out of grass,
I wonder is at any point the bus visible.
I got a dealer who delivers, man, with a great big hand, Fernando. Got a dealer who delivers fast, as in the past, Fernando.
It's a wonder when GK gets there, the bus ain't there. Where is it? It's another bus? No, it can't be. It's waiting at the next corner. Sing, no, 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 don't smoke it no more. That's a great song, man. Great song. Hey, baby. Long story. Long story in that song. Maybe one more. Nah, that's enough of that. A gig which, it was okay. I enjoyed it. In the long run, had mixed feelings. That's the truth. Gave me cause for long thought afterward. So what I'm in the middle of doing here now is taking a second look at the footage at specific points in time to see if I can nail down another keyframe or two on the bus. As for example, when he makes the corner first, he does take a pan here of the driver of the vehicle, the minivan. Comes around once, hangs here and looks up the street, maybe after a few seconds. Yeah. Curious about that bus. Ford's not long past. The bus should have probably advanced by now, but if it hasn't, there's still a red light there maybe. Does look like it's a red still. So maybe I can use that as my go code. Question. With his camera, which set of lights is it? It does appear to be the one in the front. And where would the ones that are nearer than that be? Exactly. They'd be down there farther. That's the near one, and it's fisheye once more. It's only it's a block away. And this is a double long block. So if that's in line with that corner, it does appear to be the one that's closest to us, and it just turned green. Woo! Insert wrote. I know it's only going to get up to here. I know what its speed was earlier too. I think I just keyed the wrong one. Clear. And clear. V controller. Trolley. Beautiful. I also have in the background loaded some audio from a podcast which was broadcast some time ago through the UK. Dude's name is Nick. Guy's doing the podcast. We're currently getting into episode 82. Podcasted in December of 2013. Nick's choice of topic matter changes through time. Little at a time from time to time. It's funny. I find it funny and very personally challenging to bite my tongue and let a person speak for themselves, finish, perhaps not say anything at all until later, or think about it again, soberly for maybe, or something like that. So I'm going to put that on the background while I do things. I turn the volume back a bit so it doesn't have to overpower anything. You can still hear me talking, but if I have anything special to say about what it is I'm doing other than routine matters, I'll make it quiet.
So, what have we got on this one? A chat with David Pryke, and he is of the opinion that John Lennon died for a combination of reasons, and it's an interesting interview. It takes lots of twists and turns, and we're going to be having a little listen to that soon. Also, we have a little chat with the man who does the music for this podcast, Zero Friends Recordings. That's quite an interesting and revealing little convo. Oh, and also, we have a little bit of what we'll term the lost interview with Buttons, the Bitcoin trader. I tell you what, Bitcoin has turned out to be an absolutely fascinating area. So hang on, fiat currency means, there's literally nothing backing it. It's
apart from the force of government. So the force of government backs that paper, it says.
Right.
Yeah, we'll enforce that is worth so much goods and services.
Whereas in the past, you used to be able to swap your £5 note for £5 of gold, right?
That's right. I promised to pay the bearer.
In fact, let me just read you this. I retweeted it, and I'll link to it on the blog from which this podcast comes. Don't forget, you can find it thecultofnick.co.uk. It's a little blogger site, and I put links on there occasionally. And this one, chicho.com, analysis and discussion of the world we live in, is what he's talking about. And I wouldn't say it was a hit piece. I think the guy's genuinely into bitcoins, but he's got a natural cynicism. Some of the comments suggest that he's just some sort of sore loser because he didn't buy enough bitcoins early on. I don't think that's true. I think this is an interesting little article. I've linked to it, but the bit that really grabbed me and that I thought cult listeners might be interested in. Oh, by the way, if you joined the party late on this one, bitcoins we're going to describe on the Cult of Nick as a giant mathematical equation that hangs in the sky. And you can purchase parts of that mathematical equation to keep as your very own. A little bit like a lump of gold, but not actually in physical existence. Here's the interesting piece, anyway. And I've not made a judgment either way on bitcoins yet. I've got some. I suggest maybe you get some, but at the same time, I wouldn't get too carried away with them. And this is very, very interesting. Let me read you this. It's the conspiracy. Right, it's section 3. And in this blog, this guy says, as for the conspiracy, there's been some talk that the government is behind Bitcoin. So I thought I'd preserve a little thread that was posted on the conspiracy subreddit. The comments are well worth reading. Thanks for bringing up the topic, it says here, to one of the commenters, Nicolasok, for bringing up the topic. But that wasn't me, although it sounds like it might be, doesn't it? Bitcoin was created by DARPA, reads this string. There is no way to stop what is going to happen to Bitcoin.
Trolls.
It's an issue of sociology. It's an issue of human greed. It's an issue as to who created Bitcoin and why. Who is the single largest holder of Bitcoin right now? Satoshi. Who is he? I will say it again. NSA/DARPA created Bitcoin under the guidance of the IMF. The IMF has been openly calling for a digital one-world deflationary currency for 2 decades. Openly, in capital letters. It has been discussed and promoted openly at G8 and G20 summits. From the early 90s to 96, the NSA was openly investigating cryptographic money networks. One of their researchers and investigators is a man named Takushi Okamoto. When they actively started writing the code, they chose the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamura to ultimately promote the idea that Tatsuki Okamoto to any and all who investigate the source of Bitcoin long enough. Oh God, I can't read these Japanese names. Let me give you the summary. The summary is that this Bitcoin fits perfectly the plan for a microchipped population linked to a global computer and a cashless society. And it gives a bit of detail here and there. It's an interesting little article. And I think what's interesting about it is that, firstly, I think in the first time we mentioned Bitcoins on the Cult of Nick, certainly that angle came up. And I mentioned that it seemed to fit a number of things that have been required for a while to make some conspiracy theories a little bit more viable. But at the same time, I don't know, if you could buy shares in the Illuminati, would you? I guess that's what it boils down to, really. Anyway, let's crack on with the podcast. We'll cover Bitcoins a little bit. The interview itself is maybe a little bit out of date now. We did it a few weeks ago and then I lost it, couldn't upload it, found it again. Only half of it, though. And, let's go to the John Lennon guy as well.
I mean, you've expressed
120
caution, haven't you? Because people hate you or whatever.
Where's my calculator?
I get like a hit.
Well, that calculator.
There are some people who are not keen. Yeah.
But I'm just a musician, Maybe
you don't know, man. What if the revolution
those are the
kicks
first.
off?
Well, yeah, those are usually first up
Large
against the
values.
wall, aren't they?
That's
The kind
right.
of pogroms and stuff. Yeah. Maybe you should just. I did have a stage name actually for a while. What was it?
They'll track you down when they come for me.
There was There was Gorgon Stiff. That was one of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's just say Zero Friends Recordings.
yeah, just yeah.
The guy from Zero Friends Recordings. Slightly more exciting, isn't it? Right.
0.7.
This
This
is the
isn't the reading
Cult
here.
of
This is
Nick.
the change in
One
Y
of the
location or X
strangest
location
events,
is negative
I
9.7.
Ever
About 10 meters a second, I guess.
is the murder of John Lennon. It happened in December 1980. John Lennon, of course, was a singer in the Beatles, and he was gunned to death by a bloke called Mark Chapman.
Whatever this
who
is.
just, as far as I'm aware,
Minus that.
was waiting outside for an autograph, had a chat to him, and then shot him in the back.
170.
And it's one of those events that, I mean, obviously it caused a huge stir across in the media, across the whole of the world. It's one of those events that whenever I think about it, it always kind of confuses me and annoys me that a bloke who was basically just a pop singer and quite a cool guy was shot dead for no apparent reason. So we're going to get a guy on the air now who's an expert in this. He does a website, www.lennon-chapman.com. That's lennon-chapman.com. It's a fascinating read. Well, let's get him on the air. David, thanks for coming on the show.
Hello, good evening.
So, am I right in saying that Mark Chapman killed John Lennon simply because he wanted to be famous himself? That's what I've heard. Mark Chapman wanted fame, so he thought, oh no, I'll shoot a pop star.
Yeah, and I've heard that, and no doubt many of your listeners have heard that. I don't personally subscribe to that view at all. No.
Okay.
There was much more going on than that.
So what about, I mean, I've also had conspiracy theorists telling me, because for people who don't know, John Lennon was very involved in politics and the anti-war movement. I've had conspiracy theorists tell me the American government wanted rid of him, and so it was a hit job, and Chapman was an assassin. Is that true?
Possibly. I'm not sure myself on that one. Certainly Lennon was being watched by the FBI. We've got the files on record to prove that. And the only way that it would work, your idea of, he was Chapman was a hitman, would be if Chapman was somehow sort of brainwashed, a sort of Manchurian candidate type figure, and the target was Lennon. Now, a lot of people believe that. Again, I don't. I think, again, there was something much more sort of disturbing and deep going on.
Okay, because, I mean, he did, it's known, isn't it, that he dropped into the combat stance when he had the gun.
Yeah.
Chapman there, almost like a trained killer.
Yes.
And shot him whilst Lennon had his back to him, right?
Yes, yeah. He had practiced. He'd practiced with guns. He'd actually been practicing with an old friend of his, a security guard. So perhaps that's where the combat stance came from. Okay,
so what is your theory? Why do you think that John Lennon was shot by Mark Chapman?
Right, it's complicated and tricky to explain, but basically I believe
the bus is
that
moving. This is generally at
they
speed.
were two figures being drawn together by some sort of force that some people will call coincidence, some will call fate, some will call destiny, some will call synchronicity, and so on. There was something going on in both of their lives that was putting them on sort of parallel tracks, and at the end they came together.
Okay, so who was this Chapman guy? I mean, was he didn't write pop songs, did he?
No, Mark Chapman, or Mark David Chapman, to give him his full name, was a high school student dropout. He was into drugs in a big way. He was a one-time fan of the Beatles. But his real passion and his real obsession was the music and songs of Todd Rundgren.
Todd Rundgren? I've never even heard of him.
Right. Oh, never heard of Todd Rundgren?
No.
Yeah. Todd Rundgren, he's still producing music and still producing, very innovative stuff. He was Chapman's sort of main, as I say, passion and interest.
Okay.
He has a bearing on this because Chapman slavishly followed the lyrics to Rundgren's songs, and he slavishly followed the designs of Todd Rundgren album sleeves.
So what kind of music does this guy make, Todd Rundgren?
Very sort of rock, pop, but sort of with a strange sort of idiosyncratic twist.
Right, I see. So he was a Beatles fan, but
Yeah.
he preferred Todd Rundgren.
Yeah.
And he had his albums and stuff like that. How
Yeah.
did that motivate him to kill John Lennon?
Right. Basically, during the 70s, Lennon got involved in a very fierce and heated row with Todd Rundgren over music, over style. Lennon was very sort of, disparaging about Todd Rundgren's work, called him all sorts of names. Rundgren responded, and that was the sort of turning point in Mark Chapman's sort of being a fan of the Beatles to hating the Beatles and hating John Lennon.
Okay, so he had an argument with a fellow pop star, John Lennon.
Yeah.
Had an argument with Todd Rundgren.
Yeah.
Mark Chapman was annoyed about that, but that can't have been... I mean, Mark Chapman had mental issues and stuff like that.
Oh,
didn't he?
yes.
Let me introduce you to the Cult of Nick. You're a guy that I bumped into on a street corner, and you said that you had 0 friends recordings, and so we hooked up and we got your music on tape, didn't we? That's what happened.
Yeah.
And to describe
we didn't
you...
establish a friendship, though.
Yes.
Let's make that clear.
That's right. Yeah. We've. Let me try and describe you to the cult listeners. I would say you're a combination of Syd Barrett, Ramsey Dukes, and Neil out of the Young Ones. Is that fair?
I don't see why not. Yeah.
So listen, tell us a bit about yourself, man. Who are you? Seriously.
Well, that's quite a question, isn't it? Well, I suppose in this context, I'm sort of a struggling underground artiste, I suppose you might say, in the kind of, slightly, what do you call it?
Tell us a bit about that.
Right, well, Chapman was basically, at the time, diagnosed as sort of a paranoid schizophrenic. He was receiving psychiatric treatment at the time, when he was living on Hawaii at the time, 1980. So all through the 1979 and 1980, he was receiving treatment in the hospital on Hawaii. The thing about paranoid schizophrenia is there's 2 main sort of symptoms, if you can call them symptoms. One is that you have a feeling that you are losing control of who you are. You're losing your identity. And the second one is that you are aware that everything around you is trying to tell you something. That everything around you is trying to send signals to you. So every television program you watch is aimed at you. Every book you read is aimed at you. Every word you read in a newspaper is aimed at you, trying to tell you something. So when Chapman listened to Todd Rundgren's music, he felt that every word in every song was telling him to do something. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, the big trigger in all of this was that at the very time in 1980 that John Lennon produced his Double Fantasy album, the same month Todd Rundgren produced an album called Deface the Music. And if you look at the cover of Deface the Music, it is a send-up of a Beatles album cover with the Beatles.
Right.
I don't know whether your viewers can picture with the Beatles, the album cover. It has the 3 Beatles across the top and 1 below.
Let me just describe that for people. It's
okay.
There's 3 Beatles, and it's all black and white pictures, dark photos, and it's a very iconic image.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was their early image. It's the classic mop top image as well,
Yes,
isn't it? And surrounding them is darkness. Apart from then, they're coming out of the darkness.
Yes, yeah. Now, if you look at the 1980 Deface the Music by Todd Rundgren, it's a send-up of that. You've got 3 sort of busts or effigies of heads and shoulders across the top, a 4th one underneath, and basically the songs are spoofs of Beatle tunes and Beatle songs. Okay? When Chapman listened to that and looked at that album design, he got the message he must deface the Beatles. Now, the only Beatle he could realistically get at living in Hawaii was John Lennon, who was living in New York.
This is pretty complex stuff, isn't it?
It is.
So what you're saying is that he was inspired by that. Now, what evidence have you got to back this up? Has Mark Chapman said anything to this effect? Because he's still alive.
Yeah, no, Mark Chapman has never given an interview about the murder. He's given interviews about his life and his life in prison even, but he's never said anything about the murder.
Right.
Other than, that he heard little voices in his head telling him to do it, that sort of thing.
Right, so he claims that he heard these voices telling him
Yeah.
to go and kill John Lennon,
Mm-hmm.
but you're saying that it was a sort of a twisted hero worship of a guy called Todd Rundgren who'd written an album called Deface the Music that was a pastiche of Beatles songs.
Yeah.
And that's what triggered it.
Well, that's one trigger. There's several.
Okay,
Right?
what else we got?
That came out in 1980. That came out literally days before the murder. Okay? And Chapman had rushed out and bought that album. We know that. Right, the other big trigger, and again some of your listeners will know of this, is the book The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Now, that book has been involved in more than one murder or more than one assassination.
Now, can I just give a bit of detail on this? Because this is a book that, according to some witnesses, he turned up, he shot John Lennon, then he sat on the curb and started reading The Catcher in the Rye as John Lennon died behind him.
Yes.
He had the book with him, and at one point he even said that was going to be his testimony to court, right?
Yes, yeah.
So he was totally obsessed with this book,
Oh,
Catcher in the Rye.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he'd read and reread this book dozens of times. He knew it off by heart. He knew every line and every word. When he got to New York with the murder in his mind, he realized, horror of horror, that he'd forgotten his Catcher in the Rye book. So he went into a Fifth Avenue bookstore and bought one to have a new one. He had to have that book with him because that was like his Bible. That was his life. Okay.
Right. Okay. So he was really obsessed with that book.
He was obsessed with the main character in that book. Is a character called Holden Caulfield, and Holden Caulfield. The book is about 3 days in Holden's life, and Holden has just been expelled from high school, and he wanders. He can't go home because he doesn't know what to say to his parents, and he wanders around New York for 3 days and 3 nights. He's trying to get home, but he daren't. And again, here's Mark Chapman wandering around New York, same time of year, December, same as in the book. He has become, in his head, Holden Caulfield. And the book gets its title from the main idea in the book. Holden has a dream that all the little children, all his sort of the children from his childhood and his memories, are playing in a rye field, a cornfield, on a cliff top, and it's dangerous because any moment they could fall off the cliff to their death. The catcher is the man who's going to protect them and stop them falling off the cliff edge. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the catcher in the rye is a sort of protector figure. Okay, that's what Chapman wanted to be. He saw himself, his role in his sort of paranoid, schizophrenic mind was that he was going to save the world and save the children of the world. And at the very time that idea clarifies in his head, and he's reading The Catcher in the Rye, Lennon issues the double fantasy album, and there's a number of songs on that where Lennon is saying virtually the same. I'm going to protect the little children of the world. I'm going to save the children. I'm going to protect them from the monsters. I'm going to make all the bad things go away, and so on.
Yeah, because there's a song on there to his son and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where he's literally talking about that.
Yeah. So Chapman hears that and thinks, you can't be the catcher in the rye. I'm the catcher in the rye. I'm the catcher in the rye.
We bumped into each other down in a local
drinking
pub,
establishment.
in a local drinking establishment, didn't we? Yeah.
After hours.
Yeah, very late, I think it was, and I can't remember talking much then, but yeah, some other time. I mean, probably just sat around. It probably came out pretty quickly, didn't it? I think.
I'll tell the story.
Maybe it's Alan Moore that
I'll
probably did it actually.
I'll tell the story from my perspective.
Yeah,
You can give them yours. How about that? Stereoscopic.
Yeah.
For the listeners.
Sound of stereo. Yeah.
So I bumped into this character in a pub, and I was with a mate who got on with you really well, and we all kind of started chatting and stuff. And I remember you told me you were doing your
bottle of Jack Daniels, wasn't it? I seem to remember.
Probably a bottle of Jack Daniels was involved.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels and Diet Coke being my favourite tipple if you ever bump into me in a pub anywhere. But
I'll buy one here. Yeah.
But the thing is I remember you had this big effects pedal with you, and you were carrying your guitar around.
Oh right, yeah.
And you had all that kind of stuff with you.
Yeah.
And typical me, I wasn't particularly interested either way in all that. I was chatting to you, but I wasn't that interested in the music side of it.
Yeah.
And then we got chatting about the sort of music that we were into.
Yeah.
And of course, the sort of music that we're into, well, we're into similar things.
Yeah.
You like Syd Barrett, for example.
Yeah.
And then Throbbing Gristle, another good band.
Yeah.
And then I remember hearing some of your stuff, and it's soundscape stuff.
Well, the stuff
that I heard.
Lately, yeah. Lately it has been, yeah.
Now, at the time, I was using copyright-free music from a YouTube channel.
That's it, yeah.
And I remember thinking,
and you were like, hey, yeah, free music sort of thing.
Yeah.
Of a particular, very particular, singular sort of quality, I suppose, maybe. Yeah.
Yours fitted, and what I like about it is that we've got a kind of an ideological similarity in the sense that you're into all the kind of occult stuff that I'm into. You've lent me a load of Ramsey Duke's books, which
yeah.
I've got
well,
to
I kind of I was more fortunate enough to.
You can't do that. I'm doing that, and again, that's another sort of thing that pushes Chapman towards killing John Lennon.
Okay, so we're dealing with a complex set of situations, and
Yeah.
you're talking about parallels between John Lennon's life and Mark Chapman's life. I mean, I'm trying to think. John Lennon obviously went out with Yoko Ono.
Yes.
And who did Mark Chapman go out with?
Well, he actually that comes into it because he actually married a Yoko Ono lookalike.
Really?
A woman, Japanese-American woman called Gloria Abe. Everyone thought she looked remarkably like Yoko Ono, and Chapman married her because of that.
Okay. John Lennon was also a famous atheist. I mean, what about Chapman?
Chapman's background, very mixed, because at times he was a sort of Jesus freak at college. He was well known for being a sort of Jesus freak, really sort of very committed Christian and so on. He then dropped that because he started experimenting with drugs of all sorts and all kinds and all sorts of mixtures.
Which would be another similarity with Lennon, of course, because he experimented with drugs.
Yes,
right?
he did, yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah. So, Chapman, I suppose you could read that as a sort of a troubled past, somebody looking for an answer that he couldn't find, that sort of thing. He in his life, he just went from one thing to another, one obsession to another. The only constant was the Todd Rundgren thing.
So, I mean, I'm trying to with this kind of information, your take on it, did you ever personally at any point believe that it could have been a hit organised by sinister forces within the American government?
Yes, I did. Yeah, to be honest, I did. Yeah.
So is that how you got involved in this research?
Not really. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a big John Lennon fan, and his death hit me hard and shocked me, to my core, sort of thing. And I just wanted to know, for my own satisfaction, why it had happened, what had happened, and why. So and all the accounts, that Chapman was seeking fame, Chapman was a Beatle fan, and so on, they just didn't ring true to me. So I started doing my own research on this, and started sort of piecing it together in a way, to me, that did make sense.
Gosh, that sounds like a familiar feeling. I'm going to go on a short break just to get my bearings in the head. I'm good, but early in the first hour here of this session, I don't want to fall asleep too fast. I do have a couple more hours worth of work to do, and I want to stay alert for this part. But I just managed to approximately place a moment when the drone might even be visible had GK been on the other side of the street. But it must be up around here, and it's going to cross the street. Might even be as far back as here where Faith Goldie starts her live stream. But I'm thinking about how to measure the speed of the crowd. It's at the far corner, according to this clip. And there is some indication, I mean, people know what's coming. But we can't actually see any indication of the crowd even being that far into the image. But it's at the very far corner of this other block, and GK is hung up on this angle. So they're coming up under the cover of what's immediately in front of his camera. So unless he was to go out here in the road and aim up this way, then he would be able to see the marching people. He makes it this far before they catch him almost. But he starts seeing them before that. Interesting stuff. They're pretty fast too. But they're only, say, a double bus length back when the clip cuts, which is only 20 meters, which according to the map, that far. Pretty cool. I like this as a tool, I really do. It makes a lot of things pretty easy to figure out. It's almost a silly question at this point in time. Reconnecting. Anyone has anything to say or add? There is a chat room there, of course. Looks like I'm getting a bump or two. Not a surprise.
when I took to the trade. It was all covers I played, never really ever taking chances with the chords and lyrics I composed myself, until I came to see it was better than poverty. And all the witty writers of postmodern ditties left extinct could surely use the help. Let's look at the flavors quickly satirized. Flower up, flower and Cooper stop pulverized. All the time it is grievously level up on fire. Bottle of rum, bottle of rum, bottle of rum. Now you can see wheels are falling free, whirling round the globe in 90 minutes, like 300 clicks above the piece below. Play with an MFP, having telemetry, chatting back and forth on nifty headsets, so and singing Roger every time. Raj, one day I think I will take it this Soyuz pad, couple it up with a lover's Hakuna chat, point in a loon and I'll give me a bottle of rum, 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 bottle of lunar soil, sweat and toil, but the back of isn't very far, so it still is really not that hard to do. They liquor of every kind, sweetest of all moonshine, nothing else to do inside to have it, that just shut the soup, bottle of room. So Looney just used all the buckets, rocking ass. Then he made a new crater, we fly right past. Yo, give me a bottle of rum.
Virgin land, me parodies on these shores.
We sail with the morning tide. My vessel's my joy and my pride. She's been loaded for bear with a frightening air. We'll scream when we pull alongside, 'cause my parrot is on my shoulder, and my cutlass so rusty you'll molder. All your swagger and swank won't save you from your plank, but at least you won't be getting older. No, no, with 15 men on a dead man's chest. I work hard for my capital gains, yeah, in the winds and the snows and the rains. Save right, grinding away on the corner each day. I work hard and I never, ever, ever complain. With that banjo up on my shoulder, that axe so rusty she'll molder. It's catching the can like a Venn diagram at the junction between chaos and order. Oh no, no, with 15 men on a dead man's chest. I was joined with the hippie commune. It stayed in the noon, not noon. Class distinctions is moot when it's all birthday suit. But a terry cloth towel more cursed than boon, 'cause the parody's low bid order. I still spurn the quick bubble sorter. For goose or for gander, if it's true, tain't slander, but the saucy is far better bolder. No, no, with 15 men on a dead man's chest. My wife knows a Dutchman ain't two. One hell of a hand on a flute. And while he's a master, his brother's a pastor, can't hardly afford a new suit, 'cause he's a parrot on somebody's shoulder. 'Twas he, she'll agree, was a boulder. Sure as Eve took the fruit, that good pastor toots, stands a corner that gotta be golder. Size 42 pants. Oh, oh, whoa, with 15 men on a dead man's chest.
Hard cut. Hard cut, because that's the way it is.
I went to the master and I said, I'm starting to feel we'll be dead. With the boogie and jive, trying to keep us alive. What put to sea with 75 millimeters.
Good lyrics. I like some good lyrics. Yes, indeed. If I do say so myself. And in this case, I do. I was just doing some thinking here. One of the things on the map, which is sooner or later going to be challenged in or questioned, I hope it does get challenged and questioned, is this. I'm using the timeline right now to get some of these clips positioned because I think I can now, and it's worth my time to do so. But path the Challenger's taking and where it currently is looks to be over here, about here. This average speed is pretty slow for the whole trip, and I used to be a courier, which is why when I first considered the distance to the time that I had to go, even though I had to go all the way out and back again, it's only a kilometer, it's less than a kilometer and a half. It's 5 minutes. If you'd given me a shit hot car, fast car, and a 5 minute time frame, and told me you'd pay me $8 to get it there in 5 minutes instead of the regular 5, I guarantee you I could have done it at 30. I could have done it at 22. I could have done it at 20, never going above 20 or 25 kilometers an hour, whatever it is. Yeah. I would have been confident I could have done it too in that 5 minute window, whatever the traffic conditions, because it's pretty, let alone that you had to pass the point and come back to it. But there's my tea. Here's my tea, my cue. Beep, beep. Fully admit I'm going to have to go digging. Likely sources for Market Street. Likely sources for Market Street. I can forget about them for now, but I'm thinking, hey, I got this long area, and if I have any footage at all for Market Street, that we can say the Challenger fit and description is passing and heading west. And bearing in mind that there's supposed to be roadblocks to prevent them from passing to get here and from going south. I think there's one supposed to be here and one here. Check my thought on that again. Pedestrian mall entrance on 4th. Crossover, they call it. Supposed to be blocked. And another one on the westbound lane. So that's on 5th though. So when Ford gets his drink of water here next to City Hall, I'm using the map down in the corner. Sorry. I've had a good look at it. I'll flip over for the benefit of the viewers. Here, the map again. Another map. Roadblock here, supposedly. It was planned to be there. Obviously wasn't, I guess. The mall crossover for 4th Street East, Southeast. And then on 5th, which is the street here, Ford walks up to get the tail end of the Unite the Right rally crowd going that way, but which had an advanced crowd, some of them which split this way and this way. Could have got up to here before the Challenger got there. Not to say they did anything here, just saying there could be footage, I guess, of Challenger arriving here, because shortly after Ford catches that, he goes to here, this corner, next to City Hall, to get his drink of water. He's pointing his camera this way, catches Challenger here. Because when he's getting his drink of water, Challenger goes that far. Timing. I think that fits for timing. At least for my purposes, that's what the timing actually says to, on average, that's where he gets for this period of time and for that set of, how to put it, for that sequence of events. I'm curious as to what this clip has to say about this situation. I'm going to maximize this window for a minute. So we get an idea of the length of the rally, how far it's going, that it's holding up in the front. That's the midway part of this double long block, the parking lot block. Double front, and GK is back here. Might even have a shot or two. If only his camera didn't make things in the distance look smaller, we might have seen the drone crossing into GK's shot at points. So wide is his field of view, and relatively undetailed when it gets to heavy distance or long distances. I wonder how much this one zooms in. Pretty cool perspective lines on it. No sign of the bus moving, but I'm thinking the bus is held up from the time it got to the corner when there was marchers pretty much near it, so it erred on the side of caution. Then we can see where the triangle shape's coming from. It's the ramp in the middle. I could reconstruct the design from knowing that one detail. So I'm thinking, hey, this clip belongs over here more. Although they're still not showing signs of stopping. They soon will be. But not much more. The drone is hovering somewhere over here. We might have a shot of it. It's going to be highlighted against the background, but it will have a high chance of specularity. The problem is it's a bright point moving against a really bright background. So I'm going to hide the clip again for a second. We know by Faith Goldie's time the drone was hovering in around the back corner of this building. It moves forward afterward. Makes sense to think when he moves out of the way here, we should be looking for drone in that same top quadrant over that direction. When he resets here, like I should be looking for the drone moving from one side of the screen to the other, somewhere in this area. But with his motion, I don't want to zoom in too closely, and I'm only looking for a couple of bright pixels or then a couple of dark pixels. Dark ones are its silhouette against the background, and then the bright ones, whatever color the sun is throwing against it and bouncing into the camera here. I know it should be there, that's why I'm looking for it. Should also be down here and moving upward afterward, because that's the angle we're going to see here. Be darned, it's awful tempting to want the motion stabilize the whole darn works of it. It's so tempting. Reason. The zoom. Can't help but wonder if his ear or eye would have been drawn to it. A novel sound or something you wouldn't expect. You hear it buzzing around and you wonder what the hell. Oh, okay. Distance, I mean, we can look, the nearby streetlights at zoom look to be the far ones. They're not. So the thing that I'm thinking to look for is on the other side of this. And moving this direction now. It shouldn't be hidden by the trees either, because I know it's rising above this building. Darn. It's got to set for that shot. Speaking of setting for shots, Looking. Wonder how fast it would be moving against the background either. Careful look. I got a cup of tea there too. Speaking of careful. Cup of tea next to a friggin' power bar. That's a bad idea. But be darned, I'm keeping it there. Careful look here. I'm seeing whether or not there's any evidence whatsoever of a drone. I know where it is. I want to know if I can take a better guess as to when to start this clip, which is currently hidden. When there's a decentish chance of catching GK still leaning on a tree. And a reverse angle of the same event would make my job a little easier. Because I would like to put that clip farther forward. But not by much. And if it started now, then the drone is already over there and filming back this way. And we can't see it. I suppose it is possible that it's hidden or obscured by the leaves. There's one or two points where I thought maybe there's a pixel or two there, like right there on the end of the tree. This stays fairly round most of the time, but then there's one part there it seems to branch out. That could be the drone. But it's a tree, right? So if it stays on the tree and doesn't move away from it, then it's the tree. It's a stick or something beyond with another leaf. And yet there's this drone over there, which I know is there, right? I'll give you another indication of the same thing. This same cluster of leaves is here, I think. So there is that like faint floating sense of whatever. Or, yeah, same as there. So that, and like, unless that's the drone already, it's not the drone. So that's a leaf, or yeah, it's a not a leaf, but a very far away leaf from our point of view. Another one on the same branches, or a twig stick behind. However, I do suppose that it could be hiding, moving through the field of that. So I could take a closer look here and see if the drone is visible. Stabilize it a little bit. It seems to be like breathing motion. Very little indication, if any. It's going to come up too and then move over. So even after this move, if I could add any sign of the camera motion after the move. But GK is going to get ready to start moving here in a minute. There's the guy with the flag. Hey. Gonna put a mark there. Gonna label it too. This way, when I skip forward to the next cut, start looking for known identification, known landmark, known point. Seems like he's on the outskirts, so if he happens to be waving it and making his way forward, funny to think, hey, the end of the crowd is going to be coming up. GK is over here. That could be him there even. He's only 1 or 2 trees up from the corner. Is that it there? Watch that part of the crowd for a second, see whether or not it comes into view. It's not surrounded in a field of red, though. So it has to be in this part of the image, if it's there at all. Or that does look awful lot like it. Yep. Cool, boy, I got him. Got him from here. Right from the beginning. Lovely. Lovely. Right here. Don't have to track him. He's right here, right now. GK is somewhere in here, and I think that's GK there. Tight to a tree. Close onto the front, and it's not a very big tree. If we look back on the footage and track GK's positioning again. But we know where Mr. Red, blue, and yellow flag is and where he's moving. It's coming up on that mark. And we'll pass between us and the camera. By around the end mark. I just put on there. I wanted to move it forward. I guess I got my wish. I think that clip belongs back here. I think it's practically there. And you may quote me on that, which means the drone should be visible if GK sweeps over here. Drone should be visible from these few seconds sometime up to now before it starts filming. Maybe it's filming the whole time, but its line of motion is blocked by that and by that. You're not going to see it move over there, I don't think. Not from this angle. Someone else might have. But I'm happy with the location of both of these now. I think they're both not maybe to the second, but close to it. This one, provided GK's location works out. So let's try something else. I have got here. Got his camera already selected. This is his position. So as far as I understand it, he's only in from the corner a couple of meters. But we can verify that reverse angle. Or we can try to, I mean. By having a look here when he does his walk. And we'll do it in real time and just see. And count some of his footsteps here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's getting across a 10-meter street in about the 10 steps he would need. I got the bus being stopped up at the corner there. I don't need to see this one for now. I'll hide it. Yeah, that one again. 1, 2, 3. He's taking small ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Past one tree. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He's asking now about 18 meters in. So that distance maybe doubled thereabouts. And I use the streets, like the locations across the road too, to determine, hey, where would I have this if it's parallel, and using this camera. So I'm pretty good on the location here, I think. So after one larger tree, which is right at the far corner, and a planter on the ground level, and then he's at the second tree. And he only moves as far as the second tree, but he sets twice on it. Once after he has the talk with the guy. He only moves forward a little bit. So there's a larger tree after him, and he's between two planters on a small tree. And he's on the outside of the tree, and he kind of swings around on the tree. He's kind of holding the tree sometimes, I think. Leaning on or whatever. He's got one hand over here. He's kind of like he's not holding but leaning, because he's got the bottle in one hand and he's fiddling with the thing in the other. So that marks his location well enough for me. Again, if we use that information and have a look at this, we can see almost all the way to the end of the block clearly. But there's the first big tree, a planter, and then a little tree with a guy on it. And there's another tree in the way kind of blocking the shot. Oh wait, no. Did I get that right? Yeah. Another big tree in the way kind of blocking the shot. But the tree in this middle area is kind of small. So whenever the yellow flag passes in front of where I think GK is, that's that moment that I've marked. That's where I put the end of the clip, if it happens to be close to that location. And I think when we look at that, since we can see at least one where the large tree is, and that there's planters on the ground and these between them, that if the yellow flag is waving, the yellow, blue, was it yellow? Damn, I can't even remember. The tricolor there, as it moves forward, it passes once really clearly in front of GK. And I think that's the moment that this occurs, close to it. Again, within a couple seconds, one way or the other. But he is clearly waving it. As they say, letting the freak flag fly. No judgment, no ill judgment on that part there. Freak flagging. So that's two pieces of film that I wanted, or film. I'm calling it film. That's pretentious. Two pieces of video clip there that I wanted locked down, that I've got locked down. I'll just hide them for now. Get back to GK, because I've got most of these other things put in place to where I think they need to be. I haven't moved him yet, but I'm waiting until I get Rebel Z to do that one. I'm also going to update that one when I get there. This hasn't happened yet. That's the moment the signs pass him at the end of the rally. Then the motorbikes. That was a really big jump there. So I gotta fix that curve later. I got the broad strokes of a large and complex camera move done. That looked better at the time. I can also say that. Maybe I should fix it a little now that I got the graph editor open. I've been using it all day, or all morning. Here's this part of the graph where this move occurs. You can see there's a radical shift. Probably want to take that one, smooth it out on that curve line here, which seems to be more along the general line, but it needs to get to this bottom area quicker. So this one jumps. And I'm pretty sure that that's an X motion, or yeah, X motion. Right there. But the previous curve is here and that one's there. What can I do about that? Key, do I have a oh, Alt G, is that, was it? Alt O. Let's try Alt O. Smooths the curve out. Makes it a smoother motion. And if I took it from a farther curve up the curve, he's not moving very fast at this moment in time, or very fast in this period. I'll scale that to 0.3 of what it is now. Oh, and I'm going to scale this one down by hand, and then physically and manually move it up to smooth it. I don't have to use the tools all the time to do these kinds of things. Now, I still think I could probably do a better job with this than even smoothing it. Don't need to move the actual mark up or down. I don't want to do that. Which is what I just did there on that last one. I changed the mark physically. But, let's see. Because he moves forward, and he's moving forward more purposely and fast than that, I think. And that's the last keyframe. So I think that is better. That's what I'll be doing to fix some of the curves, is smoothing them out some of the time. And there was a Y component there, but I think the Y component was pretty good. This is what I spent more time getting down correctly on the top part of the curve. That line. But both of them are necessary to get the correct position in space. As an X coordinate and a Y coordinate. It's kind of like graphing out the motion. And then using this to swing them around at the right moment in time for the rotation key, which is down here. So we can see there's a proper full-on swing implied a couple times here. Well, sir, I had Nick on there. Totally had Nick on. Before I had my Nick gone, you know what I mean. Ooh. I wonder how long he stays here. Not very long. He updates he moves forward a little tiny bit, updates his position. I update his position, he moves forward. but only a step or two and only a few meters. Then he holds. Like he's properly on the corner and the curb here. He's pointing to the far end of here. I've got another strip to enable. Make this job easier. It's this one. Excuse me, my line back, right? But I can tell it's the far corner of the building. So this rotation needs to be like to here somewhere. Back, right? That's the load road. Let's check that. Yep, looks good. Let's see where it's the next motion. He's going to hold for a bit, probably. So yeah, he swings his center of mass over as he gets ready to move again. So before he does that rotation move, I'm going to keyframe his rotation. Look for where the maximum point of the rotation occurs. So switchover point is in somewhere in this 10 frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey. This needs to match that now. Not across the street, but halfway along the building. Not there, but there. Load road again. Because he's starting to move. A lateral motion in a little bit and stops again. Takes another little peek. So it's a step or two in this direction and around the back of whatever he's negotiating. And then looking down the road more, past this building and towards here, I think. There's a construction area here now. I saw that in a video earlier today. Kind of looking over this lot at the corner of that lot. There's the load road. Let's play it. I'm going to play it because it's easier to determine what he's probably going to do. There's the first step forward. So again, I'm going to, because he hesitates a second or two before he does it, I'll wait till his intention seems clear, which is there. Update his rotation first. Ooh. I could even do load road for this one. Ooh, I was counting the numbers there as he made the steps too. He's taking easy steps though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Only 14 or 15 steps in that period of time. It's probably his last one right about there. If I was to pop up the Google map, this would be probably a little bit easier to grok and grasp. But knowing that that's the front of the first building and that's the front of the second building, he's still in the area of the first building. He's probably only about here and is 15 meters downrange at most. His controller is 10 in this direction. And he's pointing back towards this wall. I get the rotation more or less right, and then I'll think about putting his location forward. But there's 10, he's on a line right now, and so the next 10 and maybe another half. He only makes it this far in that time, and he's not in the road, he's walking back out onto this area maybe. So this angle is going to be a little more extreme. I think it's about to there. That explains why he's capable. Well, that seems like a little too far there, right? He's taking smaller steps. Here's the angle I'm getting from the camera. Tells me I'm seeing this building, so I should be more or less back there. And this is a rough angle. This isn't a precise angle. This is an estimate. So again, I'll change the rotation in the same estimated fashion, but then load it and see if that don't compute for some of the data. Moves forward, gradually sets on the wall. So for the first part, number of frames where his center is basically there, which is where it is right now on the keyframe. Not on the keyframe, but on the curve. But it holds that for longer. It holds it to about here. In fact, and once again, his angle is really closer to here. I'll insert a rotation keyframe. Go back to the last one and see how it goes through this again. I was looking at this the wrong way maybe. When I was saying it was there, yeah, okay, that's better. That looks better. So now I'm using the graph not just to get X, Y location, but also the rotation data. That's the stuff that's really being laid down more in detail. It lets me know where to look for stuff by using this green. I just use this green bar as the method. Oh, sunshine on my shoulder makes me happy. God, love that one. As far as I can go with any kind of copyrighted material that I haven't, put my dirty mitts all over. Sometimes I miss smoking indoors, but not much. Not much at all. Goodness me. All right. Pushing forward a little farther. I want to get to the end of this building before I call her quits tonight. And at the rate I'm going, I should be able to get well beyond that. Let's do this again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm going to watch them. I'm going to actually watch this happen. But I can zoom in on the map here and make the most out of the space that I've got to make this a little easier. Yeah, he steps in. Make sure he steps right in there. He's holding position when he makes that step in till he finishes talking to her. Okay, I'm going to do this again now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So now we get an idea of just how far along the building he is, because his line is to the second row of windows in this one. Oh, I can save it now, but I gotta also keyframe it, or it's gonna be pointless. And it's already bouncing, so he doesn't hold there very long. He's on his position, but his angle bounces back to the far corner there and beyond. Okay, let's just follow that. Extreme point, and he is kind of moving still, but I'm only going to do rotations. Again, guessing how far this might be. It should be on the inside of the line. Insert rotation. I for insert. Play it forward. His line is clearly to here. Insert rotation again, but I should probably put a low rot there, because the next move is a proper move. He's going to be stepping away. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Dang. 17, he's going to pause and stop, and he's going to be turned that way. 17, and he is almost, what? He's part of the way back to the tree that he was set on. Here again, we can have an idea where that drone was, where he was, from his camera. He was there. Then he moved forward up out of the shadow, or out of these tree areas where he was half obscured. But he was after the first tree on the block, on the smaller second one. Third big one is the one that he was probably blocked from seeing the drone by, if there was any chance at all. I haven't marked the trees on the map, but I might want to do that. Simply because this line on his shoulder, well, that's the line where he's pointing. That's not necessarily the line that he's turned that way, but that's the perpendicular, I think. Somewhere like that. You see the line over this far, it's going to straighten out a little bit and then fall off again along that curve. And it's 17. So let's see if I can't get the angle. Because it's inside of the block, right? You're not even seeing the other wind. We're not going that far. We're that like that. It's coming on close, but straight to the perpendicular, but it's well off the angle. And he seems to be about 17, and he's moved in this general direction down range, not along the line. So I have to think about a line this way, in this position, about 17, maybe there, and at that angle. We'll get a confirmation maybe that this line is wrong, but I don't know. This will make this big tree on the other side of the line, and therefore in front of that building. And this other one, the other side of that line, maybe around there. Might have to look at the drone again just to see if these are planted at like thirds or something, or quarters, or what. Insert rote. Let's see how that looks. There was the mark, and we get a better sense that he's only getting to go far forward, but he's not really getting close enough to that. I don't think he's getting close enough to that brick wall to justify calling it that far. So I only need to change my X value. For the time being, I think the X value is the one that needs an alteration. Grab on the Y and bring it down. My feeling was this was probably closer to here. Which case, the rotation might also want to be altered. I'll update it. Try that one. So for that first section, he's going to rotate along that line. But again, to somewhere like here, insert rotation. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. He's got a really regular gait, if you know what I mean. So this rotation, ooh, so the average rotation in that period is around about closer to the corner than that in rotation again. And then it ends up with a turn at the end. So this is an exaggerated motion on GK's camera up there in the top. We see he does a turn around there though, and then cuts in, talks to somebody, gets a few words of information, goes forward. Sometimes tending one way, sometimes tending another. Then that's that motion, or that move there. Doesn't stop all the way up to about here. It seems to me that he's going to be at around the brick wall by then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 and he stops. Kind of hangs up for a minute. 10 gets us close to that brick wall. Yes, indeedy. He's going to be moving down range with an eye towards the long end of the road. Probably even in a bit from there. He's going to be going about 10 steps down range. And he's out in the road now, but he might not be about that far out, I think. Cert Loc wrote. Let's go back and try this again. When he's established on his course, he's already got this much rotation taken care of. Off that curve, right? That's Ford arriving on scene in the back there. Right now where the gray SUV is where I think the Tundra is, and I've got to move this point back a little bit, but the Tundra should be not tight on that. Well, it will be. It would be tight on that other side of the point, so that's in here. He's filming toward the rear of it, but it's probably a little bit downhill. I might have to start tightening up my marks. And these should all be out into the intersection by now. One, two. So wait till he pauses for this first step. This first step's not going to be a very big one, I don't think. He gets probably about 38 steps downrange there. Not all the same length. Some of them faster than others too. And that's definitely going to get him close to that corner, right? How close to the corner does he get? But I tell you, that's 38 steps or so. And he's still back from the corner because of people. I guess he's going to be marshalling his speed a little bit, but using what I've been doing with this camera in other locations and thinking he's moving out in the road a little bit, I'm going to go back again and follow that one more time. This is the very first step. So 1 meter, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. He's passed 2 parking spots, more or less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, right? So he's picking up some of this distance by walking out into the intersection. He's got to. There's vehicles out here in the middle of the intersection. The crowd is gathered around, so he's skirting the outskirts. Thus the reason why 37 steps later, in a distance that's only 30. What? Yeah. It's this way. Gee, it'd be nice to have a ruler. It'd be even nicer to have a ruler that you could rotate in any direction you wanted to and set to the exact length, you know? Like, wow. That'd be the max. I might have had this last mark wrong too. It could be farther back, but either way, a maximum length and a maximum point that he could probably be in order to get the camera angle he's getting. Assuming he took not big steps all the time, and we know that he don't. You could still use this as like a guideline for a circular area he could make it to for that shot. So I'm going to go instead by what seems to be apparent from his angle and location, and take a guess as how far onto the road he might want to try to get. He's not out in the middle. Because the bike lane stuff in front of him, or the bike marks. Alright, I gotta use this thing. Let's do this again. Yeah, I tell you what I think. I think this one needs to go up. Oh, sorry. This one, grab Y, needs to come down a bit. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's probably parallel to around about here and about that far on the road when he turns back to get that angle. It's got to be clear of this. That's the center line. So here I guess this entirely. I've got to. But he's getting a corner of the building and so much more of it, so he's in that far and he's rotated to this side of the corner. I'm getting the rotation wrong in there for the first bit. It's tending down the road and towards the area where there's construction again for the first part. But is waving wildly between them, so I'm going to take the median point, right? Median point to me is right about there. Which for this rotation would need to be somewhere like that. Insert a rotation keyframe. So we'll go, you watch them swing back that way first. Is this causing crashes? Is this screwing up entirely? No idea. Let's save it again. Then as he gets closer, then it'll start swinging back in again. Pretty much on its own. Although he is still kind of tending over on that end of the street, isn't he? Yeah, like all through there. So I'm going to update that rotation again. Insert rot. Look at how the ruler is coinciding now with some of the angles I was working out, right? I think I'm getting close to the right idea here. Okay. Well, friends, neighbors, north, south, east, west, all over the globe, my name is James PFP. I have put in valiantly so for this Fives Day. I had to check everything up. I will be back again in probably less than 12 hours to continue what I've been doing. And I mean to continue it and get it done. I mean get it done. Until I do, this is the Banjocast. This is part of the place where it will be happening. If you want to leave a comment or have any questions or anything to add to proceedings, please get in contact one way or the other. I am looking for subscribers. I am looking for comments. I am looking for likes. And I will be back in a while. Till then, thanks for watching.